You're like that old guy, and people say, "Oh, don't worry about him. He's from a different time." Like you like that old guy who just says really offensive things, but you're not old. So, hey,
Oh
don't worry
my
about him. He's
god.
just from a different time.
Business over drinks. Business over drinks. This is Dave and Tongue. This is business over drinks.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Over Drinks. My name is Terng and I'm calling in from Singapore.
Hey everyone, this is David calling in from Brizzy, Australia. How are you, Tung?
Not too bad, man, not too bad. We're having a really good conversation before this. What were we talking about, Dave? Go into exquisite detail about the topics we discussed before we got on air.
I can. Do you want me to?
No, never, never. Yeah, so yeah, like I just want to ask you, man, like why haven't we doing the section about drinking, like what we're drinking and stuff like that? Why did we stop?
I think it's because we realize we're not alcoholics. And sometimes we'd be talking at 10 in the morning. You'd be urging me to drink. I'll be like, that doesn't sound right. This feels wrong. This feels inappropriate, Tung. They kept trying to put
and
it in
you
my mouth. I was like,
and
no.
and you I really wish you didn't use those words, Dave.
My mug is shorter than Tung's, but it is fatter.
We're gonna cut out so much from this episode, man.
All right.
We're never
For
changing.
clickbait, because people drop off within the first few seconds. The topic is, have you ever experienced racism in business? But we'll talk about it soon.
That topic is something that I think I put forward because it's things that I've experienced over my life, and I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of go into depth about that
From me.
because
Yeah.
yeah, no, Dave's always been very racist. I think that's something that I can publicly say. No, but but before we go there, right, I kind of want to touch on some really interesting, like new things that I've been seeing going up now. Like everybody's familiar with Mr. Beast. I think we've talked about him multiple times. We're fans, maybe not fans of the content, but we're fans of what he's being able to achieve. But Mr. Beast recently became the most followed YouTube channel, subscribed YouTube channel in the world. He beat T Series, and he had this massive video with 50 of the biggest influencers in the world all taking part in this video, which I thought was fascinating. But one thing I want to talk about is been seeing a lot of Mr. Beast products, right? His chocolate bars and stuff like that. Actually, in Southeast Asia, it's super weird. I really didn't think they'd come to Southeast Asia, but it's all in the supermarkets. We get little standees of Jimmy or Mr. Beast, as you know him, in the supermarket, kind of looking at me while I walk by. I thought it was a bit weird, but it is what it is. I've never actually eaten a Mr. Beast bar, but I'm sure it's great. But yeah, no, it's fascinating. Did you
I
did you
have.
think is it good?
The new formula is good. I've tasted both his first original batch, then his second batch. His second batch is much better. He's made a lot of improvements to it. It's good. It's good
All right,
chocolate.
all right, man. Maybe I'll give it a try. It's $3.50 Singaporean to get a Mr. Beast bar that's about this big.
Does that just feel like a lot to you? Does it? It's a lot to
Yep,
me.
yep.
Actually, it is for
Anything,
chocolate.
anything over free is a lot of money. That's what I've
Speaking of
noticed.
Mr. Beast and X, formerly known as Twitter, he announced, or he's been hinting that he would run for president. I've heard him hinted in confidently in interviews that he would run for president if he wanted to, and he's formally said it on X as a post that he would run for president if he was old enough. And he did a bit of a ramble about how he wouldn't be divisive and he'd get experts and things like that, which is very interesting. From a 13-year-old YouTuber to the biggest YouTuber in the world to now someone who's considering running for president.
Would you vote for him if you're in the opportunity to vote for him?
As of now, I would not, but people can be persuaded easily with a good video. So, like for example, $100 million if you vote for me.
Take part.
One
It,
voter has a chance to win $1 million. That'll be a good video.
and to be honest, that's probably a higher chance in the U.S. lottery anyway. No, but that's fascinating, man. Would you? Okay, can I ask you a question? Right, with everything that's going on, is Trump's assassination attempt, everything. Do you think that Trump becoming president versus Biden, would be more catastrophic for the world economy, or do you not just you don't give a shit?
I don't know enough to say with confidence either way, but Biden's mental health state, and people say he can just hire someone who's good, but then he's still the person who makes the decisions. He's still the one who signs off on who gets hired or not. He can't form sentences anymore.
Kind
I
of
think
like
he said
you.
battle box instead of ballot box. That's it. He was meant to say ballot box in a speech recently on a video, and he said battle box, and they didn't even
He's
edit
at
it.
the battle box.
I
Didn't
wonder how
didn't
much they
he
even.
call didn't he call
And now I
President
want to hand it over to
Zelensky
the
President
president
Putin?
of Ukraine,
Yeah,
ladies and
exactly.
gentlemen, President Putin.
That
News
one's
topic.
got to sting. That one's got to sting a little bit. That's got to
It is,
sting a little.
and he flopped the debate. Even Obama admitted he flopped the debate. But speaking of presidents, even Elon Musk has publicly endorsed Donald Trump, which is huge. I was just looking at the number, and when they say if you're a billionaire, you should buy a media company. I think Elon Musk he bought the best media company because his tweets are so influential. He has I'm looking at his followers now. He has 189 million followers. How many of them actually read his tweets? Who knows? But there will still be a fair number of them who read it, or even read it indirectly through news articles about his person. People resharing his tweets, and he's publicly endorsed Trump on a number of occasions now. And I saw another headline saying how he'll be donating at least $45 million a month to his campaign. Someone can correct
40,
fact check that.
45?
They shared by someone else. I can't say with confidence how accurate that is, but that's still crazy. But even his public endorsement is enough to sway a lot of voters.
He's still influential in what he does, and that's kind of this. It's not scary. I think everybody sees Elon Musk as like being a villain. I just think he's rich and he doesn't know. Like he kind of does what he wants to do.
His purchase of X, as controversial it is paying off because your message can be definitely heard, and it does have a tremendous impact on the world.
Okay, awesome. Why don't okay? I'm thinking. Why don't we jump straight into the conversation about racism in
Mm.
the workplace and our experience and our, like the businesses that we've worked in, we've run, we've done, right? I would really like to know, David, your perspective because I've got my own experiences. I don't want to color your thoughts.
Mm.
Like, have you ever experienced racism? Have you ever been racist to someone? Like you
Have I
said
ever
that
been
you've done
racist to
many
someone?
times.
I just targeted racism at you. That's all. Everyone else. That's how I repress all my urges and thoughts, negative things, and I just let it out on you. That's
I
how I
would
get
like
by. That's my therapy.
I would like everybody to know that I am a minority. So I just want to point out that Dave punches down.
You're gonna get canceled. You're gonna get canceled.
No, but Dave, I'd really like to understand kind of your experiences with racism in business, man. It would be good to know.
Racism. Well, I haven't. I guess I've been in business anyway. In personal life, I've had a few people say a few negative things here in Australia because I live in Australia. I'm a person of color, obviously. I've experienced some of it growing up, but in the workplace, none have said it to my face. So I think because it's just inappropriate, right? But none directly to my face. Though I have experienced or witnessed some kind of, you could call it a little bit of reverse racism. I've had some clients who specifically say they love the migrant mentality. So they specifically hire people who are migrants, and not to exploit them, but simply because of their work ethic. So they believe they work harder, and they've seemed to it seems to help them with their business. So that you can probably say that's kind of like reverse racism, where they go out and choose minorities. But all in all, I've been lucky that to my face anyway that I haven't really experienced racism in business that I know of,
Okay.
and I've had some very great clients of some very great business partners. They've been nothing but extremely generous to me. So I guess I'm very lucky.
That's interesting, man. Because I think so. Just for some context, Dave works in Australia, and most of his experience has been in Australia, and then maybe like what a year in Singapore as well. I think the majority of my work experience has been in Singapore. I've also like worked in other countries, and I think I grew up in Sri Lanka, so like my experience is very different, right? In Sri Lanka, I really didn't work that much. I was studying, I was schooling, I was young. I did some part time jobs and like smaller jobs. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. I did experience quite a lot of different things that were race related there, but
Yep.
maybe I'll talk from a more modern perspective, especially coming from my time working in Singapore. So one of the first things I did when I came to Singapore was I went for all the job interviews I could find. And
Yep.
during a job interview where there was like a bunch of people, Um, I was shortlisted, I think, to the top 20 or the top 16, I forget. And then during the in-person conversation, this lady asked me where I was from. So she was I think she was American or she was English, I forget. She asked me where I was from, and I said, I'm from Sri Lanka, but I'm Chinese, right? I want to give some context of who I am. And she's like, you're not Chinese. And it started this really
You
weird. What?
really?
Sorry?
Where did she think you were from? You look
No
so
idea.
Chinese.
No
Yeah.
idea. And the thing is, the more I didn't really protest, but I'm like, I said, no, I actually am Chinese. But then it just sounded like I was getting desperate and I was protesting. So even at that age, I would have been like 22. I kind of just like, okay, said, I got to kind of stabilize the situation because it seemed to be spiraling out of control because I was just like being a crazy person going, I am Chinese. But it was really weird where I've never had anybody doubt where I was from. And this wasn't a case where like, oh, you're Chinese. Oh, that's interesting. It was more like she didn't believe I was Chinese and then refused to listen to me when I said I was Chinese. So it became this really weird conversation I was having with her that I'm not sure this was the main reason I never got past the top 16 or the top 20, but I didn't get past that round of the interview. But it was weird. Like,
Unless it was a language they needed you to speak Mandarin or something, but I'm guessing they didn't.
no. It wasn't a language based
Yeah.
thing. It was English. Plus, I mean, whether you're Chinese or not, right? Like people in Singapore don't speak Mandarin that well. I don't speak
Yeah.
Mandarin at all, so I'm not one to judge.
Yeah.
No, but like it was a very interesting experience for me. I mean, I've been in jobs or like I've had experiences while working where the people in the room have been of a different race, and then what I feel is I struggle to actually connect with them at any point, and that could come from me. So I'm not going to put 100% blame on them. That could just be me and the fact that I hate talking to people, right? But it's true, it's true.
Yep.
But what I felt was, especially if they're foreign, I struggle to connect with them on an authentic basis. I'll say
Mm.
that. Like I felt like every time we've been in rooms, for example, we went for a really big pitch meeting. This is when I was working in another company, and then I was there when my colleague, who happened to be white, gave a presentation. Questions were really nice. Everything was really good. It was really friendly. When I gave the presentation, it suddenly became super hostile because when I gave my part of the presentation, which was ironically the easiest and shortest part of the presentation, it became super
Yeah.
hostile where they're questioning my knowledge. It wasn't a case where anything in the presentation was wrong. They were questioning my knowledge. And even afterwards, right? Because I was like, listen, I'm not going to go shout racism because that's just weird. And everybody who does that kind of uses it as a crutch versus trying to really
Mm.
analyze what they do. But when I asked, like, hey, did I stuff that up? Did I make a mistake in my presentation? Was I not clear? Everyone was like, nah, you did fine, right? All my entire team, who will not hesitate to take a shit on me, was like, no, actually, I think you did
Mm.
fine. So it was a very weird. It was some weird thing that I don't know. It's If it's not race, maybe it's just my face. I just look really
I
angry
think
all the time, so which is true.
it is. It's, at least you admit it. I was about to say maybe it was just your face, but in Singapore, and this is public knowledge, like every expats, especially from the West, get preferential treatment. They have a huge reputation for that. They get the higher salaries, they get the better bonuses, and then and it is generally believed by a lot of people that it's not really dependent on talent, but more of the fact that they're expats from the West, specifically from the West, right?
I think that perception's been changing, or that not perception, but that reality has
Okay.
been changing a little bit over time. But when
Yeah.
I was growing up, 100%, 100%, that was the thing.
What's it?
I
What's it
mean,
changing to now?
less common. So it's way less common.
Yeah.
You still see it sometimes, but I think also through globalization, the fact that a lot of people who are Singaporean have studied abroad, that ideology and that kind of understanding has also been like very international. So I think that's quite positive. Oh,
Okay, that's good.
can I share an example of something that I went through when I was working? I think in probably my first proper job in Singapore. So my boss was American, right? Like American, and then we were all called into a meeting where we were discussing something about a potential new client, and he said, "I'm getting so and so from the U.S. to come down. because I think we need new, fresh perspectives. And we were like, that's cool, right? It's not going to affect us that much, and like probably be good to have someone else in. And then he had to say this one line, which was, because I don't think anyone here has the imagination in order to get us to the next level, right? And
Yeah.
these are, by the way, these were like all the senior directors and everybody in the room, right? And everyone was real
Yeah.
quiet. And I was just like smiling like a moron, thinking, oh, gonna be a fight, but no one fought. Then when the American manager came in, right, and she was a very nice lady, super nice lady, right, and really, really, really smart. But she was very honest. She said, "Guys, I'm here because they offered me a free trip. I don't know anything about this market. I don't know anything about the media, and I don't know anything about this client." So she told this to the big boss too. She's like, "You have to rely on your local team. You cannot rely on me." Right? Because he was like, "She's gonna come and save us." And she was like, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard." So it's a very weird concept. Like I think it's a mentality of certain people when they come here. They just think it's gonna be easier. And I think maybe 20, 30 years ago, probably. But if you look at what it is now, right,
Mm.
it's the complete opposite way. All the Asians are going to America and Europe and taking people's jobs. We're watching a race exodus. I
You
really
were the
shouldn't say that.
racist. That was the twist.
M Night Shyamalan's got nothing on me. But hold on, hold on. But can I tell you something? I was punching up.
Yeah.
I was punching down. It's a little different.
Yeah. It was interesting though. I did have when I did work in Singapore, I did have a colleague call a senior expat who was Caucasian. She called him Whitey. She said, "You don't know anything about this Whitey." He was in the elevator, and we all just became extremely quiet. It was yeah, it's a bit of reverse racism. Like it was.
I'll put my hand up. I've made mistakes like that, and I've regretted them from like day one. Like the moment I said it, like
Yeah,
I've made mistakes. Maybe not the exact term "whitey," but I've definitely made mistakes like that. So I mean,
yeah,
I wish I didn't. I think I'm smart enough to know that I shouldn't have said stuff like that. I don't think I was also had racist intentions when I said these things, and I'm because I've openly admitted this before. It's like don't think I've ever had racist intentions when I said these
mm,
sort of things. But I grew up super comfortable with all these things because I also grew up in a really, really, really racist country where everyone was racist towards me primarily.
it's
It's
literally
it's quite
violence in your where you grew up, right? Yeah,
yeah, but the violence
where
was
it
never
was.
targeted at me per se. It was a race war.
Yeah,
No, but it's interesting, man, because I think when we think about racism in business, right, we often think it's people, paying certain races or foreigners less or something. Right? But racism in business actually is a lot more subtle. I think if we were to just honestly take a step back and reassess what we consider to be racism, what's doable and what's fair in offices, we could have, just good banter, people being comfortable with each other, people working well together without there having to be these strict, stringent rules right now. I mean, you've seen all those stuff primarily from the US, right? Like you've heard of Netflix's guidelines on how to interact with people. These are primarily based around sexism and gender, but also there's a section on racism. I forget what it is. I think X Twitter before Elon bought it also had similar policies. But for
mm.
example, in Netflix, you can't you're not supposed to look a woman in the eye even when you're talking to her for more than like 2 seconds. Like I
Already
think
do
I
that.
think this yeah. To be fair, because you can't look anybody in the eye when you talk to them. Uh, I think it's something to do with like also like can't shake hands or like zero physical contact. Like these super crazy draconian rules, right? That literally take away part of the benefit of working in an office, which is like creating close relationships and communities within your team and within your office.
Mm. Oh, dude, I would hate to be a single man in an environment like that where you're just too afraid to even pursue someone without being thought you're committing a crime.
Mhm.
But it's funny though, they still have Dave Chappelle specials though, with all those rules. He
Well,
gets the exception.
because of Dave Chappelle, they actually I think they threatened to walk out. Like a group of Netflix
Mm.
staff threatened to walk out. And then the Netflix CEO said, all right, and basically dared them to like leave or dared them to strike. Because he was
I think they
like,
got
Dave Chappelle.
fired.
Yeah, basically. Because I mean, I'll be honest with you, right? I watched the Dave Chappelle special because he's hilarious and I think he's hilarious. I mean, I really like the Dave Chappelle stuff, man. Like when I was watching it, right? It wasn't really that, like, it wasn't really that negative or that derogatory. He made a few jokes. It was just like a guy who didn't fully understand the trans community and the trans agenda, and he just made fun of it. Like no one, like he makes fun of Asians all the time. I'm not protesting against anyone. He's married to an Asian. I think his wife is Filipino, actually.
Yeah.
So like it's just different. Like there's a very I think the way we look at things and when we look at racism, right, has evolved over time. I think we've gotten more sensitive. Like 15, 16 years ago when my boss basically told us that all our Asian people and all the locals in the company aren't smarter than one American person, that could be construed as racism. But I didn't see it as racism. I just thought it was ignorance. And I was laughing the whole time. I thought it was hilarious.
Was he
But it
joking?
is what it is. No, no, he wasn't. He really wasn't. He's
Oh
like that.
man, that sounds like racism.
Yeah, no, like okay, looking back, pure racism, but it's pretty fun. Looking back, it is racism.
Gossip Girl. I was a huge fan of that, the original season one, and not once did I think I feel underrepresented in this TV show. Not once. I didn't say where's he the Filipino male character. I didn't think that. I think I love this show. They live a lifestyle that I've never
After
lived.
after we finish recording this, I'm gonna say something really mean about what you just said.
About Gossip Girl.
But I no about the Filipino representation in Gossip Girl.
Well, you've already implied it. See that? There's a twist again. There's a plot twist again.
We kind of see racism so differently nowadays. I like it's difficult to kind of like pinpoint this is particularly racist. This is not. Uh, I don't know. I'm staying open to all these stuff. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to adapt to it. I'm also trying to see make sure that I don't fall into that trap, like I almost did by saying all this stuff.
But you do say it off screen anyway.
Never said it. I don't even know what you're saying, man. What?
You look that old guy and people say, "Oh, don't worry about him. He's from a different time." Like you look that old guy and just says really offensive things, but you're not old. So, hey,
Oh
don't worry
my
about him. He's
god!
just from a different time. You know that kind of guy. But then you're not from a different time. You're from this. You're,
I,
you're
I
pretty
just
young
keep on
still.
going, like like back in the day, like back in the day.
like like last week.
For everything. I'm like back in the day. Back in the day, we could do that.
You just hit a
Oh,
waiter. Back in the day, I could do that.
all right, man. I'm gonna suggest we stop this podcast before we get in trouble because we're gonna get in trouble for sure.
Just don't become
Like,
famous. We'll be right.
we will be famous for the wrong reasons. Just like I got pictures on like everything saying two racist Asians.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. I really hope you got something out of something tonight. And don't forget to check out our website, sign up to our mailing list, and follow us on socials. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.